various locations via the miracle of Skype. It's the 40th anniversary season of the LTN Hour. Let's talk NASCAR with your host, Todd Bailey, co-hosts Brian Schmidt, PJ Noodleman, and producer Dangerous Dan Margetta. Call the show anytime at 414-421-7901. And now, the creator and host of the fastest hour in radio, Todd Bailey.
Amazing to me that this is the wrap-up show of the 40th season. Glad you could join us. Todd Bailey in sunny, warm Phoenix, Arizona. Sorry. Joined by my three partners, including a guy who plows roads in Sheboygan for a living, Brian Schmidt of Ootsburg. Hi, Brian.
Morning. Had to do a little bit of that this week. We got about, well, I'd say a solid 10 inches here. So,
really?
But the good news is, I think by this time next week, it'll all be gone. It's supposed to get warm.
Warm. That's a relative term. PJ.
Mid-40s around here is warm.
Yeah, that's true. PJ Noodleman over on the other side of the state. Hi, PJ.
Hey, 24 degrees in Trempealeau, and we got 6 inches.
Okay, well, there's lots of... Never mind. And, of course, Dan Margetta, who's been here the longest tenured of my three partners, our producer-director, and he's holding down the fort in St. Francis, Wisconsin. Hi, bud.
Hey, good morning. It looks like I'm the loser in this whole snowfall. Other than you, we got none in Phoenix. I think we only got like 4 inches here. So...
Oh,
had to shove a little bit, but not as much as you guys.
If you're dreaming of a white Christmas, it doesn't sound too good for next week, huh? It's all right.
For him, no, but I think it'll be white here.
Oh, all right. It's amazing. The snow report brought to you by. Great of you to join us. It's amazing that, first of all, that we've managed to stay in the radio business for 40 years, and we 99.9% of that credit to the people that listen to this program and continue to download our podcast and listen live here on Fox Sports 920 and do this with us. We appreciate you, and it's like we're one big happy family. They come and they go during that time, but this is it's only 6 weeks to the Clash, folks. We're going to take 1 week off. This is actually the 51st show of the year. It's like a bonus week this week because of the way the holiday fell. So, but imagine only 6 weeks to the Clash. We come back with 4. That's only 1 week off, guys. Geez, what are we going to do for 1 week on a Sunday? It's amazing, isn't it?
Go to church.
There you go. Where everybody belongs anyway. Instead of listening.
I was kind of wondered about that. Everybody that runs that like the NASCAR schedule all year long for 36 whatever weekends a year. When you're on the off season and a week like this, what do you do when you get up on Sunday and you don't have a race to go to? I wonder does it still feel weird to them, or do they really cherish it because it's a rarity?
I bet they cherish it.
Oh, sit on the couch and watch football probably all day on Sunday.
They get married. That's what they do.
That too.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on. That they don't just get married, they die, too. And this was quite the week. Freddie Lorenzen died 2 weeks short of his 90th birthday. He lived his whole life in Elmhurst, Illinois, right down the street, just a little bit here. And Hall of Famer, went into the Hall of Fame 9 years ago. And for a guy that didn't race full-time for a very long career, he certainly made his mark on the sport. He led a lot of laps, primarily driving the number 28 Holman and Moody Ford in his time. And he looked like one of the Beach Boys, kind of a Hollywood kind of a look to him. And the last couple of years, he's battled dementia and hasn't been too good, but finally passed away this week. One of the great names in NASCAR history. Would you all? I guess it's kind of hard not to agree with that, right?
I mean, I always heard who he was, and you read all the history books and saw that thing. And my dad had a model of his car. I remember it was a 28 with a Lafayette Ford on the back, and I think Travis Quapple ran the throwback scheme at Darlington, and I think
Was
at Vegas,
that
right?
cool?
Is that one year? That was the coolest looking car. It was so plain. It was just white with a blue 28 and Lafayette Ford in the back, but it was sharp because it was so plain.
Yeah, no kidding.
It allowed the lines of the car to shine through. That's why.
Wow. There's a way of looking at it. Don't paint it. Just make it white and put a number on it. Wow, we don't do that anymore. We have wraps and fancy computer-generated. Okay, can't call them paint jobs anymore, right? Either
Wrap
way.
jobs.
Wrap jobs. There you go. Freddie Lorenzen passed away this week at 89 years old. As far as a big news season, I guess it's going to be dominated by what we're hearing in the legal system. Dan, I guess you can kind of fill us in on what happened this week. It's hard for me to keep up, but I see that they actually changed judges.
Well, that happened a little while ago. They have a new judge, and I'm not sure why. Nobody. I think the old one, did he just retire? I think that was meant.
He was retiring, and he wasn't going to be able to finish the whole thing out, so that's why they switched.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a new judge has a new set of eyes and a new set of way of looking at things, and they kind of granted a win to the teams this week. It looks like by having that injunction, they granted it. They're going to get to have their race with their charters, even though they didn't sign the agreement. And it looks like they'll get the Stewart-Haas charters as well, the way it stands right now. Now NASCAR's probably going to, fight that and try to, whittle that away a little bit. But it's a big win for the teams, I think, and it's going to create a whole new way of looking at this. We'll probably get into it more after the next break, but there's a whole lot of other, can of worms that are opened up now.
It's a very complicated scenario. Does the fact that all the other teams signed the agreement complicate this at all, Dan?
Well, I thought it did originally, but now, I mean, if they get their injunction and they claim that clause that says you can't sue us is unenforceable, does that mean every other team that signed this already can now say, hey, we don't like this deal either, and jump on in this lawsuit or not? I mean, I think that's what you're going to have to have. The courts are going to have to try to pin this down to see how wide open it is or how restricted it is. I mean, because to me it seems like if I'm a team that signed it already and I wasn't didn't want it all the way, I was okay with it, but I wasn't really super satisfied with it. I wish I could have got more, and these other guys might get more, and they're going to be on this lawsuit, and that clause that says they can't sue them is unenforceable. Well, then why can't I sue them too? It's.
They could.
All right.
What was that?
Go ahead, PJ.
I was just going to say they could join in on it too, but I think they all have to kind of hedge their bets as to what the fallout's going to be if they do win.
That's what I say. Well, yeah, if you win the whole thing, what do you really win? And you got to look at that too. Say you do win, what do you get? Is it just money, or do you get a bigger piece of the pie? Can NASCAR just turn around and say, well, I don't want to do this anymore? I don't know.
Can NASCAR, back in the day, if you pissed them off, they would find ways of penalizing you, whether it's harder to get through tech or an on-track call. The difference now, however, is that there are so many eyeballs on this sport, and you couldn't really do that to get away with it, although those mystery cautions at the end of races are still out there. I saw some debris. It isn't as often as it used to be, and they generally, television will go out of their way to show the debris now. But, NASCAR's had ways of... well,
even through tech, Dan and I were saying that prior to coming on the air, they could really make it difficult getting through tech and making them go back around and through the line again, and maybe even losing a car chief, something to that effect.
Missing the start of practice. We've seen a lot of that too over the years.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We're glad you tuned in for the last show. We've got quite a important guest that's going to be joining us next. And I'll tell you a little bit more about him after this break. You're going to love this.
As a growing manufacturing company, we needed security solutions. We chose Bonafide because of the services they offer, pricing, and trusted reputation. But it's their outstanding service and support that convinced us we made the right choice with Bonafide.
When businesses need security, they contact Bonafide Security Solutions. From locks and alarms to safes and surveillance, we do it all. We are Bonafide. We protect what you value. For your free security survey, call us today or visit bonafidesafe.com.
Hey, Matthew, give me a hand with this tree.
Dad, let's get a real tree this year.
Hey, leave that fake tree in the box under the basement steps this year. Get a real tree from PMF Landscape on River Road in West Bend. Any kind of real tree imaginable, up to 18 feet. Plus potted trees you can decorate now and plant in the spring. A huge assortment of Christmas decorations, including wreaths in 3 sizes, cemetery wreaths, festive global hanging ornaments, bows, garland roping, and more. Stop in 7 days a week during the holiday season, have refreshments, and check everything out. How about a PMF gift certificate? The perfect gift. PMF Landscape Supply, 5470 South River Road in West Bend. Call them 262-338-8800.
Dad, our tree from PMF Landscape looks great.
And now, all trees and wreaths are 50% off until they are gone. Miller Sales and Service of Random Lake is where to go for a trailer, no matter what you're hauling. Tom and Jerry Miller have been selling trailers from B&B, Trophy, and Bravo for over 50 years. Quality and integrity is what put them on the map on the corner of 57 and K since 1939. Home of the number 89 dirt and asphalt cars of Brad Miller. That's Miller Sales and Service. It's where to go for a trailer, just 20 minutes north of Milwaukee. Call them 920-994-4358.
The new episode of the Larrivee and LePay podcast is ready for you now. Wayne and Matt talk with Packers president and CEO Mark Murphy about his career and some interesting insights into the college landscape. Mark was a former athletic director at Colgate and Northwestern. Catch this at every episode of the Larrivee and LePay podcast, available anytime on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Presented by UW Credit Union. Here for every you.
Well, to tell you that this hasn't been easy to coordinate schedules is a kind of an understatement. We have one of the preeminent auto writers that this country not only has now or has ever had, Matt Weaver, joins us. You may know his work with Sports Knot, Auto Week magazine, Short Track Scene. He's been there, he's done and written about most of it, and Matt joins us right now from his home. Where are you? Is your home there, Matt? I don't even know.
One of my homes, right? Like there's the North Carolina home. There's the Alabama home. We are in North Carolina right now.
All right. Well, very good. Welcome to the program. Nice of you to finally be a guest on our show. We've been looking forward to this. We just were talking a little bit about NASCAR and their legal battles, which is what kind of dominates the off-season news. I would kind of like to get your thought on the whole process, where we are. I've been under the opinion, which probably is wrong, that NASCAR being a private entity, they pretty much can do what they want and always have, and this is the first challenge to it. But at the end of the day, when the dust settles, NASCAR is going to get their way. Am I wrong about that?
Well, there's a lot to unpack in that question, right? Like, one, I would preface anything that I say by stating that I'm not a legal expert, right? Like, I don't know. And I think that's probably the most thorough way that I can answer that. Like, I have no idea. I have no idea where it's going to go. I do know that if you want kind of a forecast in what direction this is going, the judge ruled earlier this week that one element of the charter agreement is already anti-competitive and illegal, and in fact they cannot do it. It was the clause they put into the contract that says if you agree to become a charter member, you are releasing us from a lawsuit. You cannot sue us for acting anti-competitively. And the judge already ruled against NASCAR in that. And that is the reason why, barring an appeal, 2311 and Front Row will be charter teams next year. And the judge forced NASCAR to approve the charter transfers from Stewart-Haas Racing. But there are so many different layers to this, and they have yet to really start to argue their cases that I don't have, the best reads on it. But I will say that in 2007, a court decided that NASCAR was not a monopoly. And a lot of the preliminary arguments NASCAR has done has, used that precedence a lot. But a lot has happened since then, too. NASCAR's bought ARCA. NASCAR merged with International Speedway Corporation. The next-gen car has come out, and, the teams have to purchase the parts and pieces from NASCAR-approved vendors, and they're not allowed to race anywhere else with it. And so I'm curious how much those three changes have kind of changed the playing field, as it were.
Unbelievable, isn't it? That this is what is dominating the news, that somebody actually had the audacity to sue NASCAR over the way they do business. Back in the day, we never heard anything like this, right?
Well, let me kind of break down for the audience why we're here, how we got here. It started with the charter system negotiations, right? And the best way that I can explain why we're here is that in most stick and ball sports, the revenue split between a league and the teams, the competitors, is somewhere between 46 and 52%, depending on what is your stick and ball sport of choice. In NASCAR, teams receive 13% of the overall sanctioning body revenue.
Ooh.
And what happened is that Michael Jordan and Curtis Polk, who owned an NBA team, came from that world. And listen, if you want to know if Michael Jordan's fake, if Michael Jordan is here for reasons that are not authentic, I'm telling you, it's not true. Michael Jordan loves and has always loved NASCAR. He is in it because he believes in the sport. However, Michael Jordan also knows business. Michael Jordan has no shortage of successful business models. He's owned sporting franchises, and he came into NASCAR, and he believed in the next-gen car. He believed that car would be a little more healthier for teams than it has been so far. But he looked at that number, that model, that 13% of overall revenue, and said, this ain't it. We need something better. And 2311, along with Front Row, believed that NASCAR did not act in good faith, and at worst, acted anti-competitively in how they negotiated the new contract terms, and thus brought forth a lawsuit.
It's amazing. Nobody really ever dreamed that a day would come when somebody would actually sue NASCAR. Having Michael Jordan on, it turns out to be kind of a double-edged sword. Having him, one of the greatest athletes that ever lived, having him associated with NASCAR is a spectacular get for NASCAR. At the same time, he's not afraid to sue him over what he's, calling a disparity. Hard to blame him, but NASCAR's always marched to their own beat. They own the thing. Well, how can you tell us what to do? If you don't want to be here, go away.
Yeah, and that's always been the NASCAR philosophy, right? But it's kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say, double-faced or two-faced, because NASCAR is constantly telling the entire industry is, we live in this era of collaboration, and more than ever before, we want to be able to work hand in hand with our teams. And I think sometimes it's a little bit intellectually dishonest in that, look at all of our collaborative efforts. but also we're in charge. It's our sport. It's not yours. And ultimately, the way that 2311 and Front Row are looking at it is that there's X amount of dollars of revenue, and the teams are the reasons primarily that people are fans of your sandcastle. And again, this is just their point. But Denny Hamlin once said earlier in the summer that if people just really, really liked seeing race cars on NASCAR tracks, then ARCA would be doing 3 million viewers a week.
No,
but ARCA does not do 3 million viewers a week. And the Cup Series does because of the investment that teams have made in their drivers, their personnel, the competition, the stars and cars. And all those two teams say they want is a number that is more fair, more equitable than that 13%, because there's, again, they argue there is more stake, more consequence in owning a car than owning the series.
There you go. We're talking with Matt Weaver, an authority about all things racing, dirt, asphalt, NASCAR, major league, minor league. He writes about it all. Matt, we have some business to take care of. I hope you can hang on with us during the break. We're glad you're tuned in to the 40th season wrap-up of LTN. We'll be right back.
Miller Sales and Service of Random Lake is where to go for a trailer, no matter what you're hauling. Tom and Jerry Miller have been selling trailers from B&B, Trophy, and Bravo for over 50 years. Quality and integrity is what put them on the map on the corner of 57 and K since 1939. Home of the number 89 dirt and asphalt cars of Brad Miller. That's Miller Sales and Service. It's where to go for a trailer, just 20 minutes north of Milwaukee. Call them 920-994-4358.
The checkered flag is waved over the racing season at the Fair Park in Plymouth. Congratulations to the champions, Brad Miller, Will Source, Travis Schmidt, and Ben Schmidt. Plymouth Dirt Track Racing thanks all the drivers and pit crews for their ongoing dedication. The loyal, dedicated track workers are the best at what they do every week. A big thank you also to the many businesses for their sponsorships, and of course the fans who make it all possible. The green flag will wave for another season next spring. We'll see you there.
From racing engines to street engines, long blocks to turnkey packages, or complete custom engines, just ask and Wagner Automotive can fill your needs. All backed by many years of racing experience. These years of experience have provided reliability and performance that customers need to win races. Wagner's has been building championship-winning engines for top teams from NASCAR to short tracks in your backyard. This expertise has carried over to street engines they supply to top custom car builders. The Wagner Company, in the heart of Wisconsin, is outfitted with the state-of-the-art machinery necessary to design, manufacture, build, and test custom engines and their accessory parts. Dyno services are independently available for anyone needed to test their engine. Wagner's Company can also provide you or your company with production CNC machining or welding services. All your questions and requests are handled personally by Casey Wagner. Just give us a call at 920-394-3557 or visit our website at WagnerAutomotive.com.
The Milwaukee Admirals return from the holiday break Friday when they host Chicago at UW Milwaukee Panther Arena.
Here's Ozzie Weisblatt with a break. Weisblatt moving to the net between the circles. Shoots and scores!
Pre-game coverage at 6:30. Face-off at 7 on Fox Sports 920 and your iHeartRadio app.
Welcome back to the 40th season wrap of LTN. The whole gang is here today with Matt Weaver, who you can read his stuff all over the place. If you look, just do a search and you'd be surprised all the good things that are available to you out there to have Matt on the program. Brian, I think it's time to turn to the short track stuff.
Yes, Matt. We're 2 weeks removed from the Snowball Derby, the biggest asphalt super late model race, and with it being on Flow, I think that really opened a lot of eyeballs to asphalt super late model racing. But I guess my biggest thought is I want to get your thoughts on what's it going to take to get asphalt super late model racing to the point where you see the dirt late models are at? I've been a long time dirt late model guy. I was on a crew for 20 years. went to a lot of different races, and it seems like they just can't get over the hump to the point where they're running for the large purses, the marquee events. A lot of eyeballs like the asphalt guys. But yet, if you look at asphalt super late models, they're all over the country. They're on the West Coast where you don't have that with the dirt late models. What do you think it's going to take to get them to that next step?
So I think the biggest challenge that pavement super late model racing and just, pavement racing in general has is the perception that they are a NASCAR minor league. And I think to a certain degree that perception is true. Because for every Bubba Pollard and Stephen Nasse or up there, the Casey Johnsons, that have great success, who are these veteran, star winners, you have a bunch of 15 and 16-year-olds who are coming up the ladder just to, check off a box on their way to NASCAR. And I am by no means, discounting their contributions. And keep in mind, this is more of an issue down south than it is, up in Wisconsin. Like, I know Ty Fredrickson is a super amazing young talent, and I'm super excited to watch, his career progress. But, in a perfect world, and Dan will tell you this too, is they believe in that kid, and they believe he can be a NASCAR driver. And he certainly has the talent and the competition around him to cultivate him into a NASCAR driver. But until there are enough veteran racers to fill out a field and generate something that feels like the Snowball Derby, Slinger Nationals, every big race, it will continue to be seen as NASCAR's minor league. And I have this conversation with Bob Sargent, with the ASA, all the time. I'm like, Bob, your races are awesome. I love the schedule diversity, and I love the concept. But this series is not going to be what you want it to be, what we need it to be, until every single adult race car driver that has a super late model is a part of this series. Because the biggest thing that we are all combating with this product that we love, that we think is super compelling, is that it is just the place that 15 and 16-year-olds go before they get to go to NASCAR. And that makes you a NASCAR minor league. And that perception is the number one single biggest difference between pavement racing and dirt racing. Because if you're a dirt late model driver, a dirt sprint car driver, you are seen as being in the major leagues of your discipline in a way that is just not true by both perception and reality with pavement.
You think that's what's keeping them from getting some corporate sponsorship behind it as well? I mean, when the ASA Stars launched, I thought, well, that'd be a perfect opportunity for some company to come in and become a major sponsor to that tour. But is there lack of star power because you don't have long-term drivers keeping them from getting the big sponsorship behind it as well, like you see on the dirt side with, NOS and Case Construction and all these that are doing those, Lucas Oil?
Yeah, I think if you're invested in pavement racing, right, like, and you've got dollars to spend, and you want to, just purely from a business standpoint, activate in that world, there are so many more viable places to get the bang for your buck, right? Like, you can take your advertising money to the ARCA platform. You can take your advertising money to Truck Series. You have all this different, splinter competition too, right? Like, you've got Cars Tour, and you've got, Ricky Brooks' UARA. And I just think that there is not enough value. And it hurts me to say that, because, like, I'm preaching to the choir on this show. We all think there's a ton of value in pavement, late model racing, and short track racing from that entertainment standpoint. But if you're, again, wanting to invest in dirt racing, there's a handful of these marquee divisions, USAC for sprints and midgets, and High Limit in the World of Outlaws for winged sprint cars, and Lucas Oil and the Outlaws for the late models. And most importantly, they've got a very full, front gate. Their grandstands are full. There's this big investment. People have been fans of their favorite drivers for 15, 20 years because they didn't leave to go to NASCAR or somewhere else. And so it's kind of a cyclical process. We need more veteran race car drivers. We need more fans. We need a larger audience. And again, most importantly, we just do not need this perception that we're just a step below ARCA.
Yeah, no kidding. Wayne Lensing, who runs a pretty prominent chassis facility down in Illinois, once told me what we need is heroes, and there are very few 14-year-old heroes to cheer for. Well, that's a pretty good way to put it. We're talking to Matt Weaver. If it goes fast and turn left, Matt writes about it, and we've got other things to ask him about after we take a quick break. We'll be right back.
As a growing manufacturing company, we needed security solutions. We chose Bonafide because of the services they offer, pricing, and trusted reputation. But it's their outstanding service and support that convinced us we made the right choice with Bonafide.
When businesses need security, they contact Bonafide Security Solutions. From locks and alarms to safes and surveillance, we do it all. We are Bonafide. We protect what you value. For your free security survey, call us today or visit bonafidesafe.com.
Hey, Matthew, give me a hand with this tree.
Dad, let's get a real tree this year.
Hey, leave that fake tree in the box under the basement steps this year. Get a real tree from PMF Landscape on River Road in West Bend. Any kind of real tree imaginable, up to 18 feet. Plus potted trees you can decorate now and plant in the spring. A huge assortment of Christmas decorations, including wreaths in 3 sizes, cemetery wreaths, festive global hanging ornaments, bows, garland roping, and more. Stop in 7 days a week during the holiday season, have refreshments, and check everything out. How about a PMF gift certificate? The perfect gift. PMF Landscape Supply, 5470 South River Road in West Bend. Call them 262-338-8800.
Dad, our tree from PMF Landscape looks great.
And now, all trees and wreaths are 50% off until they are gone.
Miller Sales and Service of Random Lake is where to go for a trailer, no matter what you're hauling. Tom and Jerry Miller have been selling trailers from B&B, Trophy, and Bravo for over 50 years. Quality and integrity is what put them on the map on the corner of 57 and K since 1939. Home of the number 89 dirt and asphalt cars of Brad Miller. That's Miller Sales and Service. It's where to go for a trailer, just 20 minutes north of Milwaukee. Call them 920-994-4358.
The Packers stay in primetime when they host the Saints Monday night at Lambeau.
Gotta feel good tonight! Monday night! You gotta feel it!
Doug Russell is live with the Potawatomi Sportsbook pregame show at 3 on your home for the Green Bay Packers. 97.3 The Game.
Welcome back to the final program of our 40th season. Glad you joined us. We're talking with Matt Weaver, who writes about things having to do with stock cars mostly, but usually anything that turns left, even though I think I've read road course stuff in the past too. PJ, I think it's your turn.
Well, I was just going to ask you, Matt, kind of your thought, tagging on to what you all were just talking about, how 15 and 16-year-olds are just kind of checking the boxes as they come through. I really think if you back up the bus a little bit and talk a little bit deeper on that, it really comes down to the same thing it always comes down to, and that's money. If the series was able to pay enough to make it feasible for a lot of the really great short trackers to be able to travel to Florida, to Virginia, to North Carolina, Tennessee, across the entire country. I mean, it's hard for a smaller team to be able to afford to do that, especially when you got a tire bill that's huge and 3 days of practice or whatever it is. I think that the whole system, the way it's set up, is not very conducive to make it possible for some of those kick-ass short trackers to do the series.
Yeah, I mean, spot on. But I would say that throwing money at racers historically does not tend to move the needle. And to be fair, like, there's probably never realistically enough money to make doing this viable. But I think what I've learned, and keep in mind that like one of my first jobs was actually in racing, was working at Mobile International Speedway, and I got a really good education then, kind of seeing how operating a short track worked. And Tim Bryant from Pensacola ran the racetrack for, I think, 2 seasons, and I got to kind of learn under Tim a little bit too. But what I think some of these promoters miss, and listen, they've got to balance their budgets and their books too. It's not so much the purses and how much races pay, but how long you're keeping them at the track,
Yes.
the sort of things that you have to do to get a crew to come along. Because I think sometimes we get so wrapped up in what does a race pay to win, and not enough in, well, how much are they going to have to pay in hotels, or how much are they going to have to pay for food, and how many days are they staying? All this stuff, and you know, we just got done at the Derby, right? And I tried really hard to force a conversation about the car counts, and I think by the time the weekend was over, there was a lot of healthy conversation around that story that I wrote. That, you know, we all understand that Tim Bryant, the promoter of the race, is part of the group that makes his money on tires, and we all recognize that, you know, that's part of his business too. But if you want to continue having a bulk of teams to sell those tires to, we've got to evaluate this model, because it's one thing for the Snowball Derby to be an event that you're guaranteeing spending a week at. It's now turning into 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You get your private testing done the weekend before that. And those are the things that I think, you know, all you have to do, and I know that the ASA people are going to be loathed to hear this, but you look at Ricky Brooks' show the weekend before, 2-day show, they had 40-plus cars show up, and you could show up there on Saturday, really. I know you want to get your practice day in. And I'm not saying the Derby should be a 2-day show, but it certainly shouldn't be a 2-week show either. And I think stuff like that, when you have teams that are mostly full of paid or unpaid volunteers, that matters more than what a race pays.
Exactly. And I do have a question now that you opened that door, because that was something I was going to bring up about that Bradenton race at the Freedom Factory versus what we all saw and did at Five Flags for that. Ricky Brooks used to be the tech guy at Snowball Derby. There was a big falling out between he and Tim Bryant and a bunch of other folks. And I guess if we really boil it down, I think politics is really what's kind of ruining short track racing, because if these guys, they're all so smart in their own areas, if they could just pull together and start rowing in the same direction, I think we could see some really great programs for short track racing. Agree or disagree?
No, I totally agree. And I've got a story. I've got one more quote that I need to get a hold of, or one more person I need to talk to about it. But I think when the margin of error for success is so narrow, like it is for pavement late model racing, and everything has to be perfect or you fail, having Ricky Brooks and Bob Sargent and company not be on the same page for trying to create some sort of, you know, super, I don't want to call it national, because they're not going to the West Coast, but a super regional, you know, series that tries to, you know, cave the edge of the old ASA or Artgo or Pro Cup. When the margin for success is so narrow, having the two of them kind of at war with each other is beyond toxic. It's not helpful. It is actively hurting racing. And I don't say that to criticize either party, but I think, again, when the margin of error is so thin, it's hurting everyone. And everyone that I've talked to so far for this story that I hope to have come out after New Year's, everyone says we need to get everyone on the same page. We need fewer races. We need the races that we have to be healthier. We need more sensible travel, less days on the road for our volunteers, all these things that we've talked about, right? And I think that Ricky Brooks, who can absolutely, I love him, but he can be an absolute, egomaniac, has his pros and he's got his cons because he's a great tech guy. And then you've got, Bob Sargent and their group. I think they've got some really smart marketing people. Marty Mello has come on board to do marketing for ASA. And I think Marty's actually a really smart guy who has a fresh set of eyes. But I don't think their tech has been particularly good this past year. I think there were a lot of shortcomings at the Derby that I personally saw. And they'll get mad at this too, but I thought, man, they need Ricky Brooks' tech mindset. But they also don't need his ego either. And so both of them have pros, both of them have cons, and if they could just work together, that is a major step forward that this industry desperately needs. And it's a hump right now that we just cannot get over because of that, political dynamic.
We're talking with Matt Weaver, who has written about all of these subjects across his different platforms. And we're going to come back with Mr. Weaver for one more segment. We'll be right back.
The checkered flag is waved over the racing season at the Fair Park in Plymouth. Congratulations to the champions, Brad Miller, Will Source, Travis Schmidt, and Ben Schmidt. Plymouth Dirt Track Racing thanks all the drivers and pit crews for their ongoing dedication. The loyal, dedicated track workers are the best at what they do every week. A big thank you also to the many businesses for their sponsorships. And, of course, the fans who make it all possible. The green flag will wave for another season next spring. We'll see you there.
From racing engines to street engines, long blocks to turnkey packages, or complete custom engines, just ask and Wagner Automotive can fill your needs. All backed by many years of racing experience. These years of experience have provided reliability and performance that customers need to win races. Wagner's has been building championship-winning engines for top teams from NASCAR to short tracks in your backyard. This expertise has carried over to street engines they supply to top custom car builders. The Wagner Company, in the heart of Wisconsin, is outfitted with the state-of-the-art machinery necessary to design, manufacture, build, and test custom engines and their accessory parts. Dyno services are independently available for anyone needed to test their engine. Wagner's Company can also provide you or your company with production CNC machining or welding services. All your questions and requests are handled personally by Casey Wagner. Just give us a call at 920-394-3557 or visit our website at WagnerAutomotive.com.
As a growing manufacturing company, we needed security solutions. We chose Bonafide because of the services they offer, pricing, and trusted reputation. But it's their outstanding service and support that convinced us we made the right choice with Bonafide.
When businesses need security, they contact Bonafide Security Solutions. From locks and alarms to safes and surveillance, we do it all. We are Bonafide. We protect what you value. For your free security survey, call us today or visit BonafideSafe.com.
Monday Night Football, everybody watching.
The Packers and Saints meet for a Monday night matchup at Lambeau. Doug Russell is live with the Potawatomi Sportsbook pregame show at 3 on Milwaukee's home for Packers football. 97.3 The Game.
Welcome back. We're talking with Matt Weaver and Dan Margetta. The ball is now in your court.
Hey, Matt, we're going to kick the season off in about 6 weeks with a brand new event with the Clash now moving to Bowman Gray Stadium, the Madhouse. You had a really great article, I thought, kind of tying in the whole boys have added policy, which has gone away, with one of the places where boys have added is like the routine and normal. Can you see guys going to the Clash and getting into each other and not having some kind of a dust-up?
I think there will probably be a high tolerance for it because it's an exhibition race. The stakes are not quite as high. And I think we've seen the past 3 years going to the LA Coliseum that, there's moments where you get frustrated. I don't think anyone's going to want to. But the larger point that I had made is this: I've been so frustrated since the Ricky Stenhouse Jr. penalty, back in May and June, because, listen, I'm not saying that I cover racing or I enjoy racing because of the fighting. But I will say it's part of the culture. It's part of the personality. I view it very similar to hockey. It's just something that we do. At the end of the day, we can think that we're more cultured once we get to the NASCAR level. But at the end of the day, we're still a bunch of rednecks that drive cars in circles. And so there's nothing particularly cultured about that. And most importantly, I feel very strongly that if you feel wronged as a race car driver, I would rather you be in a position to where you express that by popping someone in the jaw and moving on than wanting to use your car as a weapon. And we've seen an increasing amount of instances in the last 2 years where drivers have gotten so mad at each other that they right rear hook each other into the wall head first. And that's unacceptable. And to me, that is like one of the worst things you can do. And I'm certainly appreciative that NASCAR suspends drivers for the right rear hook, because that is extremely dangerous. So to me, if we've established that we can't do that, which we shouldn't, but then you look at what happened to Stenhouse at the All-Star race, because it's true that they were racing each other hard, but Kyle Busch intended to maybe not dump Ricky, but come really close, and he did. He crashed him. And so then if you're Ricky Stenhouse, you've got two choices. Do I use my car as a weapon, or do I punch him? Which one is safer? Which one's more sensible? And it sounds outrageous. I'm calling punching someone in the jaw a sensible decision.
Better.
But if the alternative is using your car as a weapon, well, to me this is really easy about which one is more acceptable. And most importantly, again, we are only having this conversation. I only work in NASCAR, and NASCAR is more than likely only the national entity that it is, not because someone saw a great race in February 1979. It's because they saw a great fight associated with that race in 1979. And say what you will about how embarrassing it was for NASCAR that Ricky Stenhouse threw a punch in one of their biggest events of the year, the All-Star race at North Wilkesboro. That got them more ESPN attention. It got them more, mainstream cable news, local news broadcast attention. And I think allowing that can be a positive. We don't want it all the time. If they're fighting each other every week, call them in the hauler, take care of it then. But I think reminding fans why they are a fan of their driver, why their drivers are so passionate about what they do, is really important. And I just thought it seemed very intellectually inconsistent to take the Cup Series back to Bowman Gray Stadium at a time where it seems that they are not okay with fighting whatsoever, because Ricky Stenhouse was fined $75,000, which is the same amount of money as Hendrick Motorsports got for illegally modifying their spec car in the Cup Series. And to me, it's outrageous. It's nuts.
It's cool to see that you're right with the passion about that. You got to grasp that in the fans and the drivers to actually make it work. And speaking of an area that's got a lot of passion, I think up here in Wisconsin is a hotbed of racing with a lot of passion. Now looking ahead to things like the schedule and what we're going to do going new places. We had a race here at Road America for 2 years and went somewhere else to the Chicago Street race, which we kind of understood that. Do you ever see maybe NASCAR maybe trying to maybe get back an area up here just because it's such a hotbed of race fans in this area right here already?
Yeah, I'm torn because on one hand, obviously Wisconsin is this big time hotbed for stock car racing. It is amongst one of your most hardcore racing in NASCAR audiences, and anytime they've been provided a race, they show. And I think that you want to award them for the same reasons that one of the logical reasons behind Bowman Gray is that the number one TV market for NASCAR is the Winston-Salem, Greensboro area. And Chicago made all the sense in the world too. It's a really cool event. It's close enough to Wisconsin that hopefully a lot of those fans travel. And listen, I would tell your audience too that if you haven't gone, and I know you have, but like I know it's a really good time, and it's this really unique atmosphere. The fact that I can walk out of the media center, the garage, and go get deep dish pizza. I can go find a really cool restaurant. And I thought the racing was really compelling. It's like two Martinsville speedways attached to each other, connected by a right turn. But I will say, throwing all of that into a blender, at some point the downtown Chicago event will end, and they're going to move it somewhere else. And I just hope that NASCAR contemplates how can we reward that audience in Wisconsin, because they're so passionate. They have done everything you've ever asked them to, and you've taken it away from them anyway. And, you know, I'm torn because we also have too many road courses. And so, listen, I love Road America, and I love any chance I have to go there.
I agree with you.
But I don't know. Yeah, I don't know where else we could take, you know, the Cup Series, the Xfinity Series, you know, maybe the mile.
Do you see him going back to the Oval at Chicago anytime soon? I mean, it's still sitting there and it's intact.
Yeah, it's still sitting there. Yeah, I think once they decide to take that street course to a different city, I'm thinking probably San Diego. They're going to have to. Yeah, I think they're going to have to, you know, look at that market again and go, okay, well, there's Chicago. And by the way, this car is great on mile and a half. I think the next gen car would race wonderfully with how old that pavement is now. So maybe that's the answer, but it's still not directly an event in Wisconsin. And I love the fans up there. I'm not saying that just because I'm on the air. I think they are the smartest race fans. They are the most passionate race fans. And I hope that NASCAR recognizes what they have in this market that I'm talking to right now before they risk losing it, because I do know how much they care.
That's fantastic. We've been talking with Matt Weaver. You can read his stuff on all over the place, really, and we appreciate the fact that you actually came on with us. I realize it's not easy to juggle a schedule to be on the radio on Sunday mornings, but we do appreciate it. And, Matt, we love reading your stuff. We will continue to do that. We hope that you can join us again down the line, and thanks so much from all of us.
Yeah, sorry for the delay hopping on. Had a bit of a logistical hurdle this morning, but love being on. Let's do it again, and we'll catch up soon.
Sounds great. Thanks to Matt Weaver. We're going to sneak away and do a break. We'll come back with what little results are out there in the world of racing. We'll be right back.
Miller Sales and Service of Random Lake is where to go for a trailer, no matter what you're hauling. Tom and Jerry Miller have been selling trailers from B&B, Trophy, and Bravo for over 50 years. Quality and integrity is what put them on the map on the corner of 57 and K since 1939. Home of the number 89 dirt and asphalt cars of Brad Miller. That's Miller Sales and Service. It's where to go for a trailer, just 20 minutes north of Milwaukee. Call them 920-994-4358.
Hey, Matthew, give me a hand with this tree.
Dad, let's get a real tree this year.
Hey, leave that fake tree in the box under the basement steps this year. Get a real tree from PMF Landscape on River Road in West Bend. Any kind of real tree imaginable, up to 18 feet. Plus potted trees you can decorate now and plant in the spring. A huge assortment of Christmas decorations, including wreaths in 3 sizes, cemetery wreaths, festive global hanging ornaments, bows, garland roping, and more. Stop in 7 days a week during the holiday season, have refreshments, and check everything out. How about a PMF gift certificate? The perfect gift. PMF Landscape Supply, 5470 South River Road in West Bend. Call them 262-338-8800.
Dad, our tree from PMF Landscape looks great.
And now, all trees and wreaths are 50% off until they are gone.
The checkered flag is waved over the racing season at the Fair Park in Plymouth. Congratulations to the champions, Brad Miller, Will Source, Travis Schmidt, and Ben Schmidt. Plymouth Dirt Track Racing thanks all the drivers and pit crews for their ongoing dedication. The loyal, dedicated track workers are the best at what they do every week. A big thank you also to the many businesses for their sponsorships. And, of course, the fans who make it all possible. The green flag will wave for another season next spring. We'll see you there.
The new episode of the Larrivee and LePay podcast is ready for you now. Wayne and Matt talk with Packers president and CEO Mark Murphy about his career and some interesting insights into the college landscape. Mark was a former athletic director at Colgate and Northwestern. Catch this in every episode of the Larrivee and LePay podcast, available anytime on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Presented by UW Credit Union. Here for every you.
Well, it's our final segment of the season. I guess there aren't a whole lot of results out there. It's the off season. Brian, as far as dirt goes, was there anything? Did anything happen this week?
Nope, no dirt racing. They actually get, believe it or not, 2 weeks off. But when we come back for the January, the 5th? January 5th is our first show. The dirt late models will be back in action already at Vado. So that's how short of an off season they have. Oh. They go racing on January 4th, $25,000 to win in Vado, New Mexico.
So, and PJ, as far as asphalt results go, this is off season.
Not a whole lot. There was some action out at Irwindale, if we want to call it that. 9 cars racing. Trevor Huddleston won that one. Cole Custer finished third. They had super late models. Only 7 cars started for 40 laps. John Moore won that. And then the Legends probably had the biggest group of people. 29 cars, but Jake Bowman was your winner there. Lawless Allen got a top 5, so that might tell you something.
And that's sad because that's the closing of Irwindale Speedway.
Irwindale's
that's
all
right?
done. Yep, that's it. Too bad. We cannot do this program on a weekly basis without our fantastic partners in the program, and that would include, but is not limited to, Bonafide Security and Mike Egan and his staff. Talk about loyal to this program. We love them to death. Froggy at PMF Landscape Supply. If you haven't bought a Christmas tree yet, it's getting kind of short, isn't it? This would be the guy to buy it from. Jerry and Brad Miller over at Miller Sales and Service. This was a pretty damn good year for old Brad, winning a championship plus a Slinger Nationals. He says that he's had better, but I'll tell you what, this was a good one. Bill Weinog and the folks up at the Sheboygan County Fairgrounds in Plymouth, John Yingling and Sherry Black at Wisconsin State Fair Park have supported us on this program. Track Enterprises and Bob Sargent, Jerry Albee at Dells Raceway Park. We consider him to be a partner of ours. And we'd also like to give a big thanks to Aaron Baird and Paul Reichert, our contributing partners who have helped us out immensely, not just this season, but for several years. Ed Kluka's birthday would have been Christmas Eve, and we just wanted to remember that and remember our old partner as time goes on. It stops for no one, does it? And mostly we want to, as I mentioned earlier, thank our listeners for keeping us on the air here. Tim Scott over at 920, man, oh man, it's always good to have somebody in your corner like Tim Scott has been in our corner. Over at Fox Sports 920. Just a great guy, and thank you for everything you've done for us. And boy, there's a season in the wrap. We're going to take off next Sunday. You won't hear from us. If you're going to be a Facebook listener, or if you are a Facebook listener, we will probably do something during the week off. It won't be Sunday morning, I guarantee it, but just watch. We'll put a warning up and tell you when we're going to all come on here and just talk about some stuff. Might be racing, might not. It'll sound a hell of a lot like the Hangover Show, or as Dan called it, LTN After Dark. So, I guess that's going to pretty much wrap us.
Merry Christmas.
You betcha. Merry Christmas to everybody.
And thanks, Matt.
Thanks to that aforementioned Matt Losey, who is the hardest working one of the whole bunch of us, too. Thought I'd throw that in. And for all of us, we just want you to remember that real race cars have doors, even if they do climb in through the windows. LTN is produced and directed by Dangerous Dan Margetta. Our wonderful engineer is Matt Losey. Happy holidays from all of us, and we'll see you in 2 weeks, everybody.
This program has come to you live from multiple locations via Skype. Any and all comments expressed on this show do not necessarily express the opinions of this station, its employees, or advertisers. Your comments are always welcome at mail@ltnradionetwork.com. Find us at facebook.com/LTN Radio Network. And thank you for your support since 1985. Tune in again next Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Central Time for the LTN Hour on the LTN Radio Network.